Hi, welcome to Object Info Part 2, and let's just pan down. I grab my little hand, and I'm going to pan down, and I'm going to look at some of these squares and rectangles that I've drawn, so we can see how the Object Info relates to a shape, to a rectangle or a circle. And we'll start with a rectangle, right? So if I hover over it, it highlights. If I click on it, it now loads this information into the Object Info browser or Object Info palette. And again, I get class layer plane, which I'm not that concerned with. But below that, I get the length and the width. I get the length and the width of what this rectangle is. And now I have a diagram of what the length and the width of this rectangle is. I have each of the smart cursor settings that are available to me on screen are now in this little diagram. I have the rotation, right? I'm not going to worry about the ratio. That's length to width. Now, it does some math for you. It gives you the perimeter, how many feet and inches it is if you were to walk all the way around it. And it gives you the area, how much carpeting or tile you would have to buy if you were to cover that entire space, how many square units, in this case square feet, right? We can also name this shape if we choose to at the bottom. But for now, let's talk a little bit about the length and the width. This rectangle was just arbitrarily drawn, and I drew it and I just plopped it down there at 5 feet 10.382 inches. Again, maybe not the most useful dimension, and I really meant for it to be 6 feet. And if I click on that and change it, this is now changed to being 6 feet wide. Again, it is based on this as an anchor point. It grew in this direction. It grew to the right. I'll show you again. Let's make that 12 feet. And you'll see that this point remained intact in place while the rest of the rectangle grew to the right. I'll just do a Control Z and put it back to 6 feet. The same thing applies with the height, right? Using this as an anchor point, I can change this to 4 feet. And now it's grown down 4 feet because this was selected as my anchor point. You can choose any anchor point you wish. If I were to choose this as my bottom anchor point and change my height to 10 feet, you'll see that it grows up because it has locked that in place. Control Z. Let's go back here. Now, what do the X and Y coordinates determine in this little box down here? These are the Cartesian coordinates of that point. This entire rectangle now is being based off of this point, and you can see that I'm a little less than 6 feet here, or a little more than 6 feet here, right? And on my Y coordinate, I'm right around 8 feet. So what would happen if I wanted to move this entire rectangle to where it lined up in space at 8 feet from the origin and 6 feet from the origin? I can just change this. Now it's at minus 8 feet, so I'm going to keep my minus, and I'll say 8 feet, right? And you'll see that the rectangle jumped over just a little bit, and now it lines up perfectly with 8 feet. If I come over here and I change this one and I make it 6 feet, my rectangle will jump a little bit to 6 feet. Now, that is all based exactly off of this corner, because this is the corner that I have selected. If I select the center, you'll see that this is now changed, right? My Y is now at 8 feet, right here, and my X is at minus 5 feet, which is right here. If I were to do the same thing, or actually I don't remember what I typed in. Here, let's look and see. Let's go back on that corner, 8 feet and 6 feet. Right? So if I were to change this to 8 feet, watch the rectangle, it'll jump over, and now I think this was delete 6 feet. That's wrong. I meant to change this number right? Backspace 6 feet, right? So now I'm controlling the position based on the center, right? Because I have the center. Now, you'll need to, if you're using the object info to move or to resize, you must be very mindful of which smart cursor you have selected, because it will determine how you reposition and or it'll determine where you reposition or resize from. It becomes the starting point for that repositioning or resizing. It also becomes the starting point for rotation. And the rotation is the box below that. And if I select that box and I now put in 45 degrees, enter, this now turned based on that point at a 45-degree angle. And you can see that our little diagram here is now changed to roughly show that we have a rectangle that is now at a 45-degree angle. Let's go back and let's put this back to 0, and let's select the center point. And now let's select a rotation of 45, and this shape will rotate around its center, right? So now that shape, its center has held, and then we rotated the entire shape around the middle. This is a way that we can very, very accurately determine the size, Control Z, the way that we can control the size, shape, position, and rotation of objects by using the object info palette. That's that for now, and we'll come back and I'll do one last one about circles.